Welcome to the It's Not That Hard to Homeschool podcast, where homeschooling is made easy and enjoyable. Hey there, homeschool heroes. I'm Lisa Nearing, your host and fellow homeschooling adventurer. I'm thrilled to share tips and stories that will help you confidently, competently, and even contentedly navigate homeschooling. So let's jump in and make this journey a whole lot of fun. Hey everybody, it's Lisa from It's Not That Hard to Homeschool, and welcome to another podcast of It's Not That Hard to Homeschool. We believe that every parent can competently, confidently, and even contentedly homeschool their kids. Now, I want to talk to you today about how the education system is breaking, but we've got a great alternative for you because smart families are being really intentional about creating educational systems for their kids. That makes sense. Now, I want to ask you a question. What if the real issue isn't whether your kids can get into college? Everybody's getting their kids to be college ready. What if the real question is college as we've known it still the safest and smartest path forward? We are watching something shift in the educational landscape. College costs are rising. Student debt is literally staggering. Employers are quietly saying, we need kids with skills. And some university presidents are warning that up to 25% of colleges could close in the next decade. And listen, one college or university is closing every single week in the United States. That is not a small tremor. That is structural change in the educational landscape of our country. Smart families are paying attention. Now, this video is not meant to be fear-based. It's meant to be clarity-based because there's some great paths forward for those of us who are aware of what's happening and are willing to strategize. So let's talk about what's actually happening. For decades, the formula was simple, and we're probably getting our kids ready to launch the way we got ready to launch. You get good grades, you get into a good college, you get a good job, and you have a good life, the American dream. But that formula assumed something. It assumed that prestige guaranteed preparation. That's why we were all so focused on what college or university can our kids get into. The Ivy Leagues were so important because they set the standard for prestige, right? That formula also assumed degrees equaled competence. Now we're seeing this more and more where kids are graduating from high school unable to read and write. And that's happening at the college level too. If you saw that UC Irvine article a couple of months ago, it said that a lot of the kids at University of California, Irvine could not do simple elementary school math. And that formula also assumed that the system would stay stable. The UC Irvine problem that I just told you about shows that that system is not stable. The colleges and universities closing, it just shows that the system is no longer stable. So we have to test those assumptions. We're already seeing that instability is more the norm than the stability that we grew up with and launched into. We're seeing that rising tuition does not equal the flat wage growth that our kids are going to experience. Credential inflation, where kids are getting all these degrees and credentials, but they don't have basic skills. Students are graduating without strong writing, critical thinking, or communication skills. It's showing up in the workplace, and employers don't want anything to do with it. Employees are now hiring based on portfolio and skill, not pedigree. It's a big change. So parents, we need to stop asking, can we afford prestige? And start asking, is prestige worth it? It's a very different question, but it's a very smart question. So what are thoughtful, strategically minded families doing? Here's what I'm seeing. They're shifting from credential obsession to skill obsession. They're asking, what can my child actually do? What problems can they actually solve? And what value do they bring? Now, I did a whole podcast on branding your kids and having them ask the simple question, what problem do I want to solve in the world? And then solve that problem so that they're the expert in it. This is about not just building a transcript, but building student capacity. So instead of our kids chasing brand names, they're actually skill stacking. Here's what that could look like. Dual enrollment, but strategically. Or better yet, shifting from degree ready to degree done. Trades and tech pathways with real certifications. Writing intensive coursework. Everybody says AI is going to take over copy work. AI is going to take over writing. Everyone who works with AI knows that that is such a simplistic way to look at it, and your kids need writing intensive coursework. Here's why. Good writing means good thinking. Good thinking means good writing, means good speaking. It's a feedback loop, and we've got to train our kids to think really, really well, especially and particularly in this world of AI. If they can think well, if they can pivot quickly, they're going to be okay. Our kids need communication and presentation skills. Back to writing intensive coursework. They must have entrepreneurial exposure. They must have financial literacy so that they can actually think through, is this college degree a good return on investment, ROI, and return on time, ROT? They also need real mentorship. Now, kids who are thinking ROI and ROT are thinking long term, and both can be equally important. If you can save your kids tens of thousands of dollars and years of time, and they graduate with real skills, they are going to be so far ahead of the game. If you can graduate debt free from college, you're 5 to 10 years ahead of your classmates. And does the degree still matter? The piece of paper still matter? Absolutely. I think the piece of paper and the college degree still matters because it's what we've traditionally used. And so having both skills and a degree is going to be super important for our kids. That's why we started a degree done program at True North Academy, where students can actually earn an associate's degree in high school or a 4-year bachelor's degree while they're going through high school. Both degrees are fully accredited. It's an amazing program. Most families need to be thinking, how do we graduate a competent and skill-equipped adult? Not just a degreed one. It's a very different mindset. And if you guys have been listening to the education news, 2 years ago, a student graduated valedictorian of her high school, turned around after graduation. She gave the valedictorian acceptance speech, turned around and sued her high school because she was not literate. Okay, so this is happening all over the country, and we've got to really be aware of it. I know as homeschoolers, we're much more mastery focused than just grade focused, but still, we've got to be very aware of equipping our kids and what degrees or credentials are really going to get them where they want to go. There's a big shift going on, and we got to be aware of it. We're moving from an age of institutions to an age of individuals. You've heard me talk about the fourth industrial revolution before, the institutions that we've really counted on, medical, government, education. They're in a time of disruption. The fact that a college or university is closing once a week in America just proves my point. So we've got to turn to an age of individuals. We need to have our kids ready to do the following because they're likely to do the following. Have multiple income streams. That's just smart. They're most likely going to change industries more than a couple of times in their working life. They're probably going to work remotely. Remember, we're in the global gig economy. They're going to compete globally in the global gig economy. They are probably going to use AI daily. So in order to use AI effectively, you have to be able to think effectively. AI is not a brain. Your brain is not a computer. And if we treat AI like it's taking over brain work, or our brain like it's just a simple computer doing tasks instead of a project manager, we've missed the beauty of both. And our kids also need to know how to adapt constantly. These are the people who are going to be the winners in this AI focused generation coming up. The old system was literally built for stability, but this new system rewards agility. We see this with Musk all the time. He is very agile. He goes from thing to thing to thing, and he puts out to his team, do a 10-year plan. And then he challenges them to get it done in 6 months. Now, for the big companies that he runs, that's very, very agile. And we've got to teach our kids that agility. Okay. We saw and experienced this all in 2020, that those people who were agile and could pivot quickly, they did just fine. Some of them really, like some of us in business, really did great. But those who could not switch quickly and were not agile, they really suffered. And some of those people in industries are still suffering. We're never going back to normal. We're forging ahead through an age of disruption. And listen, as homeschool families, we have the advantage here. This is good news for all of us because you're not locked onto the conveyor belt. You can pivot quickly. You can be agile. You can design. You can prepare intentionally. That's powerful. And that is for your family. Now, let me be clear what this doesn't mean. It doesn't mean college is bad. I have a bachelor's degree and two master's degrees. My husband has a bachelor's degree and two master's degrees and a PhD. So between my husband and I, we have seven college degrees. College is not bad. Everyone should not skip it. We should not panic, but we've got to really strategically think through what we want next for our kids. So again, instead of college is bad, everyone should skip college, let's panic. What we should be doing is thinking very strategically, being informed, and being intentional. There are still excellent colleges, there are still excellent degrees, and there are still really clear professional paths. But should we blindly trust the system? Honestly, I feel like those days are over. That's not a bad thing because when blind trust fades, clarity grows. Okay. So at True North Academy and here at It's Not That Hard to Homeschool, what we care about is this: graduating kids who are confident, competent, and content, not anxious, not drifting, not dependent on a logo or a like or a click to validate them. Capable, competent adults. Everybody knows education is shifting. The families who win in this next decade won't be the ones who panic. They'll be the ones who prepare. They'll think in terms of ROI and ROT. They'll prioritize skill. They'll build pathways for their kids, not just check boxes. And if you're already homeschooling or thinking about it or jumping into it soon, you're already positioned to do this extremely well. You just need clarity because clarity builds chaos every single time. Now, if you want help mapping a smart high school or dual degree pathway, schedule an advising call with us. We'll look at your student, your goals, your timeline, and your budget, and we'll help you build something strategic for your family and for your student because the system may be shifting, but your family doesn't have to be confused, and you don't have to graduate your kids into a world that is disrupted, feeling anxious and scared about what's next for them. You can launch them with clarity and with purpose. That's what we do at It's Not That Hard to Homeschool and True North Academy. We're here to come alongside you in your educational journey. We'd love to get you into an advising session. It is not a sales call. It is about what you're doing, what your students' interests and desires and hopes and dreams for their future are. And we help you create a transcript and a pathway forward so that they can do that with minimum anxiety, clarity, and as debt-free as possible. Thanks for listening to this episode of It's Not That Hard to Homeschool. I'm your host, Lisa Nearing, and can't wait to talk to you next time. Talk soon.